Bob now has his fish, and he realizes that he needs a fish bowl. A fish bowl takes in a fish and then returns an int. Alice has a bowl. It's a bowl that's especially made for colored fish. It takes in a color fish and then returns an int. Can Bob use this fish bowl? No, Bob cannot use this bowl. That bowl is expecting a colored fish. That type is not a subtype of a plain old fish bowl. And that's a good thing, because if we passed in a plain fish and then the bowl is looking for the color, that bowl might crash and kill the fish. Who knows what would happen? There could be water flying all over the place, smoke in the air, and fish in trouble. We do not want fish in trouble. Again, in terms of code, we've got a function f which expects a function g. G takes in an x mapped to int record and returns an int. Then we call that function with another function that takes in a record f mapped to int, y mapped to int, and returns an int. This function that we're sending at the call, it gets its int by looking at the y field of the input record. And so we definitely don't want this green function to be a subtype of that blue position, because our function f up above is going to be sending in a record that does not have a y field. What this means for our subtyping rule is that we don't need to make any changes right now. We currently say that the input types tau1 have to be an exact match. Tau1 equals tau1. This will reject the call that we were just looking at, and that's a good thing to reject. Now let's go back to Alice and Bob. So Bob needs a fish bowl for his blue fish. Alice says she has a bowl that works for any fish. Is this any fish bowl compatible with Bob's wish for a blue fish bowl? Well, yes, it is. If Bob sends in a blue fish into the any fish bowl, nothing will go wrong with the any fish bowl. Bob's fish happens to have a color, but the fish bowl won't mind that. It's only looking at plain fish properties, and the blue fish has all the properties of a plain fish. That's just fine. And similarly, we've got our function here. F expects a function g that expects a record with 2 fields, and we're passing in a function that expects a record with 1 field. The green type should be a subtype of the blue type. It's not at the moment, but we can fix that by allowing the subtyping relation. For the function inputs, we want to go backwards. We say that tau1 arrow tau2 is a subtype of tau1 prime arrow tau2 time if the right-hand input is a subtype of the left-hand input. Whereas for the results, we want the left-hand result to be a subtype of the right-hand result. Again, the way to reason about this rule, or the justification, it all comes from behaviors. The way that we use a function is to apply it. So if we're on the right and we're expecting one kind of a function, and instead we receive a function that is more general, that accepts more arguments, then we'll be perfectly happy, because we'll only be passing in arguments of this tau1 prime type,